course, fighting for his first title in the UFC, coming over from Bellator. You said you were going to come over and knock the door down here, but everything lined up kind of perfectly, maybe even a little quicker than you expected, Michael?
It was definitely a little bit quicker, but at this point, expect the unexpected. You know, I didn't come over to the UFC wanting to tiptoe around the top 10. I wanted to come in, make a statement right away, kick down the door right away, and I think I'm just the beneficiary of some interesting circumstances. Could be retiring, Poirier and Conor being tied up in the trilogy. But here we are, got the title shot. I wasn't going to say no when I got the phone call. Hunter Campbell didn't even finish his sentence before I said yes. Here we are 8 weeks later. I'm about to capture gold.
So Oliveira, obviously a challenging opponent. He's so dangerous in the sub game. How do you prepare for that leading up to this fight?
Honestly, I just prepare the same way that I prepared over the last 28 fights. I'm 29-0 in weigh-ins right now. 28 fights is my 28th fight. But at this point, my wrestling is very much anti-jiu-jitsu. I've been training ground game since the very beginning. I thwart a lot of attacks for all high-level black belts. I've never been submitted in all those fights. So just do the exact same thing I've done over the last 13 years as a competitor. Show up, put my best foot forward, get in his face, make him feel my pressure, my presence, and then my power. Get the finish, get my hand raised, get a gold belt like DC has around his waist right now.
Oh, that belt's going away, by the way, Michael. That belt's heading to me. But, Michael, we have all these fancy stats on Charles Oliveira because he's been in the UFC for such a long time, breaking all these records. But for people who maybe haven't followed your amazing career previous to being in the UFC, what do you bring to the table that Charles hasn't seen yet?
Man, I just believe I bring entertainment no matter what. Win, lose, or draw, I'm in entertaining fights. I've become more of a veteran. I've become more of a devastating striker. If I put my hands on you, you're most likely going out. I can push for 25 minutes because not only have I won multiple world titles outside the UFC, but I've fought 25 minutes and trained for 25-minute wars a dozen times. Charles Oliveira hasn't done that. I'm not saying he can't do that. I do believe we're going to see the best Charles Oliveira we ever have seen on Saturday night. That's the Charles Oliveira that I've planned for, but I can push for 25 minutes if I need to. And my resume speaks for itself. I'm excited to go out there and compete.
Mike, first off, thank you for doing that Dean Diaries with me. Now, you came up under Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, wrestling with both of them at Missouri. What can you take away? What did they teach you about this process? And they were champions in their respective fields, so did you learn anything from them?
Yeah, man, honestly, I learned everything from them in the very beginning. They were the reason I got into the sport. They're still like my big brothers. You know, I'm the oldest of three, but if I had to call someone my big brother, it's Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren. Tyron Woodley first spearheaded the whole me, Ben, and Tyron getting into mixed martial arts. Tyron started going on to AT&T, training with you and Eve Edwards and that kind of, and those guys down there. So he kind of laid the foundation. He got me my first 3 fights. So I kind of owe a lot of my success, a lot of my beginnings to those 2 guys, and also just those guys made me believe in myself when I didn't. I was a small guy from a small town who walked onto the University of Missouri, the lowest guy on the totem pole, didn't get any attention except from an older upperclassman named Tyron Woodley and an older upperclassman named Ben Askren. And they said, this guy, he's not that good, but we can take him under our wing. We can turn him into something. And I'm the champion, the man, and I believe the world champion, the UFC champion on Saturday night because of men like Tyron, men like Ben coming into my life.
Chandler, listen, I'm going to offer you something that nobody else up here. Take a sip, Chandler. I understand. Take a sip, baby. I hear your voice. I hear the raspiness, Chandler. I understand you needing to rehydrate. Take a sip, my brother.
I'm just making sure. I was wondering if you saw the snowflakes that were coming at the camera.
Hey, Chandler, take a sip, my guy. Take a sip. You're on the verge of something spectacular. Tell me right now, when you visualize this thing, because we all do, what does tomorrow night feel like, Chandler, not only for you, but for your family and for everybody that has been on this journey with you? What do you visualize? What do you see after tomorrow night when you get this gold belt wrapped around your waist?
Man, I just think it's going to be great. I think all the sacrifice that my wife and my son make with me being away, the 21 years, most of those years not believing in myself, listening to that small voice inside me that said, you're not enough, you're too small, you're never going to make it, you weren't built for this, your family tree doesn't reach high as these lofty goals that you want to reach. And tomorrow night, a dream gets realized. Those chains come off. The ceilings are broken, and I'm planting new roots for my son Hap, and I'm putting new brushes on this masterpiece that I'm trying to paint for him to see someday. That he can speak to people like yourself, speak to people here at the UFC, colleagues and training partners and people of mine that said, your father was this, because I can tell him 1,000 times what I am and how cool Daddy is, but I want him to hear it from other people, and I want him to be able to see it. And moments like tomorrow night are going to live on the internet forever. They're going to live in the hearts and minds of people. And if I can just touch a couple people out there in these small towns around the world that said that all these people who don't know if they can do it, trust me, you can do it. And I can't wait for it, man. It's going to be amazing.
Michael Chandler, what a big night it's going to be for you, my friend. I know there's a big contingent. You're talking about roots. You put some roots down in Nashville a few years ago. You got some buddies coming down for the fight. I love seeing you with Hap on the Embedded series. And I hope, for your sake, you get to eat that Snickers that you've been holding on to for the last 2 months on Saturday after the fight.
I know. It's funny. That was not product placement. That was seriously just a Snickers my wife got me, and I was like, oh, I'll eat it. I'll eat it tomorrow. And then I said, I'll eat it tomorrow. And then I'll eat it tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, Hunter Campbell calls. And then I'm not eating it at all. And it's been sitting in my backpack. It's been sitting in my house down in Florida where I've been training, looking at it every day. Now it's been sitting in my hotel room. And I will eat that right after that gold belt gets around my waist. I'm probably bringing it to the arena.
That melted Snickers is never going to taste so good.
No, it's going to be all deformed, but it's going to be sentimental. It's going to taste like victory. It's going to taste like discipline. And it's going to remind me of my wife. So
awesome. Well, good luck, Mike. We appreciate the time, man.
Yes, thank you, guys.